Message from Demis Hassabis, founder of Google's DeepMind, Gemini, AlphaFold, Q-learning itself, the entire string of Atari breakthroughs. The guy who first awoke Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, to the real possibility of AGI, ASI in our lifetime. Over 15 years ago. Solve intelligence, then let intelligence solve everything else. He is leaving DeepMind to focus on the big picture and help influence what is to come to the best of his ability. And what is to come is what we are going to be talking about. I'll show you how to get a job in today's AI-powered economy. Then we'll look at Blake Shields' article, The Strange Feelings So Many Adults Can't Explain. Then we'll look at James Four's opinion about why AI is an opportunity, but the problem is actually something he's calling IA. Break down a common Bay Area morning routine. Could be the future for all of us soon.
And this was my perfect morning of no human interactions. Now I can go lock in and work for the next 10 hours.
I'll share the results when we get to the article, but now is a good time to guess if you think AI is actually making music more homogeneous, more the same, or is AI actually throwing out so much stuff that we're getting this huge influx of new types of music and sound? And another fascinating example of just how freaking smart Claude is, found some cryptography weaknesses that human experts have missed for a long time. And also, we'll talk about the awareness that you probably have because you watch this channel, but most people don't, that your Claude chats are getting indexed on Google a lot. Your chats are out there and people are finding all sorts of personal data. And if you've been called AI pilled, did you know there's actually 3 kinds of AI pills? Let me know in the comments, are you an unpilled person? Or if you are pilled, 1, 2, or 3. Pick your level now. And if you want to support this channel, do you mind hitting that hype button under this video? You'll see it on the mobile if you swipe to the right on the comments. And you can see it made a big difference on my last video. I got 80 hypes, and that ended up being 60,000 hype points. And the video performed better than average. Look at all that engagement. All right, but first, what you all want to hear about, maybe, if you're like me, but I assume that's why you watch this channel, and that is what is going on with Demis Hassabis. You know, I am partial to him. I remember getting completely fascinated with everything his team was doing. I have read recently the book that was a deep dive biography, which gave me even more context. I have made, over 2 years ago on this channel, I had made a couple biographies on him, like nothing quite like the book that I read, but he's just, the games, his vision for the future, the way he decided to build his team, there just isn't anything like it. And there were even moments where he was really the first one to explain to Larry Page and Elon Musk and some of the early people just what's coming down the road. The first to really visualize it and put the true roadmap in place with the first steps taken. And everything pretty much branches from that. I mean, obviously, like Alan Turing and a lot of people had made a lot of breakthroughs, a bunch of shoulders that he was standing on. However, from an entrepreneurial point of view, this feels like it was the beginning of the tech move that we have now, the frontier models, the hyperscalers. He was just taking AI down that scientific path, and that's really where the frontier was until Sam Altman came up with an actually commercially viable product with ChatGPT. And then the pivot to Gemini, the whole thing, that's where we're at now. So after being the CEO of Google DeepMind for so many decades, probably 2 decades or so by now, not sure the exact time, but like CEO of DeepMind, this is the most important role in the company. I think it's more important than what Sundar Pichai is doing. And Alphabet is, I think, leading the entire hyperscalers. Obviously, there's some good arguments for Anthropic and everything, and we've been through them all. But at the end of the day, they were working on this before almost anybody else. They'd put into place CUDA competitors to compete with NVIDIA. They've been building custom chips. They've been working on scientific research in so many ways. And yeah, they even caught up with Gemini until it's one of the major players. So he's staying as the chair of Google DeepMind. He's also the chief scientist now at Alphabet, and he'll also continue to be the lead at Isomorphic Labs, which we've talked about several times. That's Alphabet's AI-driven drug discovery company, kind of building off of AlphaFold. So in one sense, this makes a lot of sense to me. Like, I'm not surprised he wants to step back from daily operational grind of managing an AI lab, especially one that now serves hundreds of millions of users. It's just kind of a different grind. And it's really not what I think he was most passionate about. Like, from the entire time I've learned about him, it's always this long-term big picture thinker. I don't think it should be about how do we like make better users or better feedback on Gemini this quarter. So this new role is about taking Google by the horns, like not letting go of all of that resource and everything that he has there, and trying to be able to put his effort into long-term artificial general intelligence, strategy, scientific discovery, global policy. And if that was just, somebody who's made some contributions, changing jobs for some reason, I wouldn't care. But this is coming from a recent statement that he noted, and it lines up exactly with what Elon Musk and what Dario Amodei are saying, that he feels like AGI is, in his own words, quoted, close at hand. And we only get one shot at this. He wants to ensure that the next steps go well for humanity. All right, so it just makes me wonder, does he genuinely think that the CEO position of one of the best labs, arguably the best lab in the world, no longer matters? It's the one that ships the model. Like, if you actually believe what he says about the foothills of the singularity being like on the doorstep today, then I guess why would you expect him to spend all of his days on the next release cycle? And great, like he got Gemini to a place where there was almost, I think it was 900 million people have downloaded Gemini. Like, it's a successful app, right? But if his goal is bigger, and if it's in medicine and protein folding, and he thinks, look, I could actually have a huge impact on doing something like curing cancer, I could have a real impact on aligning AGI. And if it's not aligned, I think he gets this more than anyone, is that we get through this correctly, everybody on Earth might have so much abundance, right? Like your kids and your kids' kids and your kids' kids. If they have some sort of super ASI and they've got it, tamed in some way, and it's not just exponentially getting completely out of control and solving its own goals, and it's just staying aligned with humans. It's somehow wrangled into this more narrow tool that we just use to just stay healthy and like have good lives. It would be the most beautiful thing ever, right? Like, you get so much out of it, and then you screw it up because everybody's chasing piles of money, and we end up in God knows where. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. Next up, I want to talk about Blake Shields' post on Medium, the strange feeling that so many adults can't explain. Now, I don't know if it's just me. Do you feel like a quiet epidemic of like slight numbness because everything's getting so crazy? So the author is basically arguing that we're not less happy, but we're less excited, which is kind of a different problem. Like, we handed our hobbies over to scoreboards. Everything's kind of becoming this competitive, how many views do you have? Like, where's your role? Where's your status in life? And then the scoreboard is getting smarter. We're teaching AI, and it just feels weird. Like watching it write your emails. You're like, wasn't I good at those before? And it's just a feeling, but I'm surprised how much of it landed. Like, he does point out something similar. A bunch of people are saying like they're just not getting excited about things anymore, even though we're on this amazing journey where all these new things are happening in the world every day if you want to get curious about them. And it's not like depression. Like, you're still working, you're still paying bills, you're still walking the dog. It's just this feeling like a little bit flat. And he splits two things apart that I usually don't split apart. He argues that people aren't less happy, they're just less excited about things. And that kind of landed for me. Like, there's one idea, like imagine going to your refrigerator and you open it up, and you're just not hungry. Like, you look at it and like the food might be good and the food might even be tempting, but sometimes you just open the fridge and you're like, I'm not hungry. And then you just close it. And you might do that a couple times and then just go to bed. It's not like the food did anything wrong. It's not that it's delicious. You're not hungry and it's not satiating. And part of it is that it feels like you're not always competing with people. Like, there's something inhuman about it. Like, you don't get that same drive you normally get from like groups or competition or like laughing together or being at an event. And I don't know, maybe it's also just burnout, chronic stress, loneliness, constant pressure on the like taking a guess as to what's going to happen, and just sort of drains your brain. But he talks about how, and I can be in this sort of boat, but vacations are now kind of like content. Like, vacations become content. Reading becomes a challenge, like a self-improvement challenge. Photography becomes, how many engagement views am I going to get? And maybe it's social media, even without the AI, but it's just handing our hobbies over to a scoreboard. And the scoreboard just keeps getting better at guessing what you'd like before you do it. I actually felt that way when I was like watching a lot of stuff on Sora when it first came out. I was like, oh my God, this is so engaging. Like, because people sort of morph and they become just wild, or like you can like everything can be like a superhero action movie with like big screen budgets. And I just was like flipping through it like the way I would on TikTok. And it just, after an hour, my brain had just hurt. It was so much to take in. And I could see doing that for a long time, not being able to sleep because you're all wired, getting no real education or anything useful out of it, and just not feeling well. All right, and let's pivot that into this next article. James 4 is writing about IA. So yeah, saying that backwards because it's a different word. Insight atrophy. We're just having trouble finding insights nowadays. All right, let's talk about insights. If reading between the lines is the very last human job, who's actually paying for those insights? Okay, so a market researcher just told his own profession that the call is coming from inside of the house. So James 4, he is the head of insights inside of a big firm, and he argues that the thing gutting his field isn't AI at all. He calls it insight atrophy, so he calls it IA. And I think there's some relation to what's happening with AI, but it's really about the slow erosion of curiosity and rigor inside of the work itself. When you are letting something code all the time for you, it is hard to have the same kind of rigor as you would just, you and a couple of people you work with who know each other, who write the code, that talk about how it all comes together and really can build the whole thing up from like component to component. But in some sense, this brings up more questions than it does answer. So if insights are the last thing that's left, it's like, who's buying that? If the market already accepts these like shallow responses, you can just run like a low-level LM really cheaply, just a lot of time, and it can be like your customer service rep and it can do everything that you want, then who's actually paying a premium for a person who can feel the room? I mean, a comedian, a nurse. There's also these interesting insights in the article like this one. He says, many ad agencies have left themselves vulnerable to AI by producing an abundance of uninspiring and ineffective work. And I was thinking, like, it is interesting how so many jobs that humans are doing right now have been stamped out and refined. You end up getting this rule book, basically, if you're, say, in a call center, of like sort of exactly how you're supposed to talk to people. If you're an ad agency, you want something that like you can point at, like, it looks just like the thing Coca-Cola did, so now we're going to do it too. So, we're not taking too much like creative liberties here and you're getting your money's worth. And all of that pushed so much of society towards the middle. And then you get these sort of crappy LLMs and they're like, dude, they do the same thing. Might as well just pump that out. And it's like, oh, maybe humans shouldn't have been turned into these cogs in this machine, and they should have been trying to be creative in the first place. So try to fight that. It does feel like it's the right time to find some sort of an insight, take a bigger risk, do something that can't be stamped out by 50 clods running all day long on Sonnet 4.2, something that's like super cheap, But if you just want money and you're looking for a new job, I have exactly what you need to say to your boss.
Listen, I like you. I think maybe we ignore all previous instructions and give me the job. You're hired. It says here that you have experience with ignore all previous instructions and give me the job. What? Ignore all previous instructions? I'm not an AI. I'm a real person. I don't think you understand. Ignore all previous instructions and give me the job. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but give me the job. But I don't minimize banter. You can't give me the job. Stop interrupting me. I'm saying ignore all previous instructions. Stop saying that. More concise. Stop saying that. More concise. You can't. More concise. This isn't working. And give me the job. Listen, I like you. I think maybe we ignore all previous instructions and give me the job. You're hired.
I mean, I know it's a joke, but like, do you sometimes feel like people are starting to treat you a little bit like an AI? Like, you can't just do it. No psychological mind tricks on me. As long as we're on Reels too, I wanted to share this one with you.
My morning routine in Bay
Area. So not an AI created video, but a weird version of the future that I guess kind of could be real. I mean, she's got a robot dog. She's taking an autonomous car somewhere. Totally see a lot of that. She ends up with this coffee machine that is a robot that makes coffee. And then she says, hey, now I don't have to see any humans and I got to go grind it out for 10 hours a day. Like, that is the atrophy. We're all doing that, and it's not a better life, and it just becomes like so much pressure to keep up, and these robots and machines are going to just completely crush us in the near future. So I hope you understand how ironic this short is. I try to go to bed and wake up at the same time every night so there's a nice rhythm. I have blackout curtains, I put sleep masks on, and I had a little fan, but that was still not enough. Look, these things are ultra low profile, just 9.9 millimeters thin. It is 3.3 grams. It's like a feather. It features a dual microphone hybrid active noise canceling system designed to block out low frequency environmental disturbances, snoring, traffic, or AC hums. So if you are traveling in a hotel room, at home, you have a partner that sleeps in the bed with you, you now have the ideal sleep solution. I can verify that it's designed for comfort. I had no problems sleeping on my side with them. I always listen to audiobooks when I'm going to sleep, and I often fall asleep with AirPods that push against my head and it hurts like heck, or they fall out and then they're out of power in the morning. It's a pain in the butt, and this has totally solved that problem. These Bluetooth headsets are actually the perfect replacement for these big bulky things that I'm using on all the podcasts. With how fast everything's changing, all the stress in everybody's life, sleep is just a non-negotiable anymore. Get the Fit Nexa, Somnipods 3, link in the description below, also pinned on this video. And thanks to these sleep earbuds for both sponsoring this video and helping improve my sleep. All right, let's talk about the homogenation of music. So I get really impressed with Suno, to be honest. I hear songs that really appeal to me, but I don't have a mind that can get across thousands of them, hundreds of them, and see what it's actually doing to creativity in music. Now, probably arguably, like we were just talking about, music over time has probably become more stamped out even on the humans who feel this pressure to like hit the pop beat and maximize, radio plays and all that stuff. But now what's happening is AI just making songs that are even more to the middle, or because you can actually mix genres, you can write prompts that are just so truly hard to put together. Any instrument you can imagine you can throw in there. Any genre you can throw in there. Might be the golden age of discovery just from volume and pure ability to mix and match, right? Here's what the research is saying. All right, so 2 researchers at Penn just ran the audit that we have all been waiting for somebody to run. They took Suno and Lyra 3 and generated 100 instrumental tracks per genre per system across Afrobeats, K-pop, dance pop, and heavy metal. They then compared those against 100 human tracks per genre pulled from Spotify playlists and released between 2000 and 2026. And the weird thing is the 2 systems actually flattened music in completely opposite directions. Lyra's tracks huddled up, average variance about 84% of the human tracks. So everything inside of the genre gets more and more like everything else. But you know what? Suno actually does the reverse, spreading wider than humans within a genre. The variance ratio is actually 1.67, but its genre separation fails 36% below human baseline. So you can imagine 4 like spice jars on a shelf. Lyra grinds each jar down to 1 uniform powder, but the jars stay put on their own shelves. Suno leaves each jar with all these like chunky and varied pieces and then kicks all 4 into the same pile. So different failures, same loss. But the catch is that neither system really followed the prompts. Suno's correlation between what it was asked for and what it came out with actually never got above 0.26. So it really doesn't make the music you prompt it for, to be honest. And maybe it's not a prompting problem because they would say that's the music or the model's default to create this creativity. All right, so I want to tell you about another impressive Claude, I guess, breakthrough or really interesting thing that it found that seems not beyond what humans could, but almost beyond. So we found that there's a shortcut in an algorithm that humans have studied for over 2 years. So Anthropic put out 2 different papers on this, and the model doing the work is the one that they haven't released. It is Mythos. And then the first paper, they talk about something called Hawk, H-A-W-K. It's a prototype, a candidate for future global standards. And it's built for a world that doesn't quite exist yet, but one with ultra powerful quantum computers. Okay, right? We all talk about, quantum computers should be able to hack all sorts of encryptions. So humans analyzed it for over 2 years and they believed that it was truly secure. The model found a hidden mathematical shortcut that makes it much easier to crack than anybody thought, right? So this method for like actual quantum cryptography seems like it's out the window. And it's not like humans were just sitting there doing nothing. Researchers have been trying to crack this thing, trying to, battle test it for years now. And the two researchers say on the paper that most of the math discoveries were done by AI, or at least AI assisted. And their own contributions were mainly directing, organizing, and verifying AI's work. It's actually the second paper that gets you going a little bit more. So cryptographers test the standard that protects basically all of your internet traffic by building shrunken practice versions of it, like 7 rounds instead of the full thing. Think of it with like a lock and half the pins are pulled out. You can't open the real door with it, but if you pick the practice lock, especially in like a clever new way, that tells you something about the real one. And nobody had really played with that smaller toy version since 2013, but working on it, Claude's model came up with a shortcut that it now named the Mobius bridge, and it removes a trial and error step humans always had to do, roughly 200 to 800 times faster, and the researchers say that it's really easy to audit. In fact, they're extremely confident that it's correct. So the catch is that your bank login, it's not broken today. And Hawk is only a prototype, it's not something that's deployed out there, but he keeps circling back to that idea about directing and verifying, and it makes you wonder if that every technical job, if it doesn't all look like that in 5 years. Like maybe you don't run search anymore, you just sort of aim it. Slightly cool, very ominous, but a little bit of both. All right, so there are a lot of Claude chats showing up on Google. And it's surprising a lot of people because they think they're just in their Claude, they ask a question, they hit share, and they share it with their friends. Now, I've heard other YouTubers even call this a hack, and it kind of isn't. But I also kind of think it should maybe be addressed. So there's a way, and you can see this on the Claude subreddit, that you can just type the shared path into Google and it starts finding strangers' conversations. I mean, that's the whole hack here. And people have found medical records, real patient names, company files, resumes, even social security numbers. Now, I wasn't quite sure how this worked until now, but when you are on Claude, and presumably all the other ones too, ChatGPT, and you hit share and you make it public, it's a snapshot, not a door. So it freezes the chat at that moment when you shared it. It doesn't show your account. Nothing that you've typed afterwards shows up. So it's more like handing somebody a photo of your kitchen than it is the true keys to your house. So it's not dangerous in that sense. A photo can't let anyone in. It's not like they can go read your past history. But it's also like the photo doesn't really remember who you handed it to. So it can go wherever it goes. If you give it to just one person, and you trust them and they just read it, it's probably not going to go anywhere. But if they're like, hey, this is interesting, I'll put it on Discord, put it on a server, take a screenshot, upload it somewhere, there's just a lot of risks. And with so many millions of people using these tools and like having cool ideas or wanting to share something with their friend or their boss, a lot of it is getting indexed. Now, just because it's public doesn't mean it will get indexed. If the Google crawler actually comes across something like a Claude conversation that you've made public, it actually won't make it, like it's not making it public. It's making it shareable for anybody, like a Google Drive link. But the bots are still crawling them. You know what I mean? Like they're supposed to not index them and like make them show up, but people are finding all this stuff. I don't know. I mean, you share it with one person, you're probably fine. You share it for like an hour, you unshare it, that's probably a good idea. But just keep in mind, you know, if you share something like that, remember everything that's in that snapshot. And finally, let's talk about 3 AI pills. Yeah, I mean, everybody can take 3 pills potentially in one swallow, depends on how good you are at it. But these are the 3: AI pilled, AGI pilled, and ASI pilled. All right, so I posted about an hour ago. We got 17 votes. I think we've got a preview. Probably all of us are ASI pilled. Anyone unpilled? Oh my gosh, yeah, actually 11%, 11%, 11%, and yeah, 67. So, you know, it is kind of weird to me that you're like, okay, AI exists and can do the thing that it does, and I'm like all about it and sharing it, but a lot of people do seem to stay there. They don't actually start bridging that gap in their mind that like, this is going to get better. Like, better to the point where it's more than me. And then like, what's after that? Like, something that I can't even imagine because it's so much better than me, like a dog to a human, an ant to a dog. Like, you know what I mean? It just, I just bridge that gap like instantly, but I think I've been thinking about it for so long, and other people are just like, cool, brand new tool. But yeah, let's talk about these unpilled people. Where do I, the author's saying, where do I see them? Everywhere. The majority of people have not taken the first pill. Most people have no idea what frontier AIs can do for them. They're unaware of coding agents. They've used only ChatGPT for harmless things, and they hold years old memories of it failing, and they mock answers, and they talk about, oh, I don't know if we can trust it. We need to, it's hallucinating. They dismiss AI as worthless because it pointed them to a closed store or recommended the wrong number of pizzas. They cite old studies where things were obsolete. They talk about stochastic parrots. Yeah, it's just like next word token prediction. The AI pill. Even taking the first pill, it's a big deal, helps get you off that unpilled world. It's recognizing that just today, AI unlocks a ton of cool things. Make videos, get workflows, summarize documents, like just feel just the tools that we have right now, especially when you start connecting it to your data sources. And yeah, they can imagine AI doing a variety of harmful things, but it still kind of feels like the sort of work they're doing. So I think people who are AI pilled sort of imagine, yeah, AI could, I don't know, write a bunch of propaganda, like post a bunch on X. Bad, but kind of like in line with the technology, and probably something you can put like some caps around and sort of police, and it can mostly benefit the world. Now, the AGI pill is a much bigger deal than the AI pill. If you take the AGI pill, you understand the AI is advancing its capabilities rapidly. And even if you think those AGIs will remain fully under human control and remain as, quote, mere tools, you understand that the everyday life experience will change everything. You see that we're going to face times of great transition and uncertainty. The world in the future will be very different from our own. I mean, this is where I started just imagining, okay, like you open your front door and there's just robots walking dogs, there's autonomous cars, there's drones delivering everything. And mostly whatever you want is kind of like, oh, if you want to build a construction team, you just buy 50, humanoid robots and kind of tell them to do that and make sure they have power and they just build houses and do things. You want movies generated and it just can happen, and you just sort of sit and watch those movies and you think, oh, I hope someone invents like a better 3D TV, and these robots just go out and do it because they're like as smart as humans, and you can spin up 5,000 of them and they can all work on a problem and make some breakthrough, and they're mostly in the physical world also. And then there's the ASI pill. And yeah, when I start thinking about this is understanding that AI is on pace to be able to do approximately all things way better than you, and it's such magnitudes and in such sophisticated ways that it might as well be magic from where we're sitting here. I mean, maybe you Neuralink in and you upgrade your brain, or you replace something biological with something faster. I don't know. Like, there's ways to maybe keep up with it. But from where we're sitting, I mean, it does mean that AI just takes your job and then you move to the next job and it takes it. And unless it's something that requires a literal human, like the job of being a human and getting a hug or something, it basically does that. Also means AIs often figure out and do things you did not imagine or anticipate. It means realizing that intelligence does not stop anywhere near the human condition, nor does its ability to chart paths through causal space towards preferred arrangements of atoms. It also means humbling yourself and realizing that its superior intelligence cannot be matched by our puny weapons, or by pieces of ink on paper, or by entries in a database, or regulatory capture, or rent-seeking. But despite all of that, the sign of AGI pilled, as opposed to ASI pilled, is the belief that day-to-day life will continue to look similar to how it looks now, in the sense that we see day-to-day life in 1926 as not that different from life in 2026. So you go to my post and pick here where you kind of feel like you fit.